Hey there, let's talk about the biggest things facing spouses when there's a property division at issue in a Texas family law situation. So the big issues that there are come down to what are the assets, what are the liabilities, what are the debts in plain English, and what is a just and right division. And and then of course there's always a bigger one, which is there any separate property? Because Texas presumes that everything is part of the community estate. So there are some state laws that the judge didn't have a say in, the lawyers didn't have a say in, your spouse didn't have a say in, that presume everything acquired, earned, what have you, during the course of the marriage is a community asset and therefore needs to be subject to a just and right division. You can rebut that presumption, you can overcome that presumption with evidence that meets a higher burden of proof. It's called clear and convincing burden of proof that shows, or alternatively, the fancy jargon word for it is traces back from its source where that income came from. So here's an example, a very common one. You get an inheritance during your marriage from your parents, grandparents, what have you, $10,000 inheritance. That $10,000 is used to purchase a home. That original inheritance, even though the money's been transferred, as long as it can be traced back to the source of that inheritance, it will, even though it was purchased during, for example, during the course of a marriage, it will, there's an argument that it will retain its separate property character, or certainly that initial $10,000 investment would maintain that separate property character and therefore would not be subject to a just and right division. So the just and right division doesn't always mean 50-50. Generally it does. That's how Texas treats, as do almost all community property states. That's how they treat the just and right division. Is basically it's a step down from the original, whatever that original purchase was. If it was during the course of a marriage, then it's generally going to be divided to just and right. There are some factors that can adjust or move that, but they're generally related to things like fault, cruelty, other things where one spouse maybe has a gambling problem and has run up some debts or has gone through some retirement accounts, and the innocent spouse has to be made whole by a just and right division, so a 60-40 split as opposed to a 50-50 split. And the courts, and including our Supreme Court of the state of Texas, said that split can be even higher under the right circumstances. Now, those circumstances are rare, but when you're concerned with just the nuts and bolts of what is a just and right division, what does that mean in plain English? That the general rule is that it's 50-50 unless there's some argument or need that compels that split to be higher for one spouse over another. Anyway, please like, subscribe, share. Questions or comments, love them, chat at ashmorelawfirm.com, and we'll see you in our next video series. Thanks.